A voice and clear. Slides further. Slides further. Good evening to all. It is a great pleasure to welcome you all for the 64th edition of Zen Tax Clinic's Tax Talks. So it is a highly privileged session, and we are able to do it continuously for 64 weeks due to the continuous patronage given by our viewers only. We are getting a huge response, and then there is a good feedback on the topics chosen by us also. So it is only because of your motivation and then support we are able to do that. And then from the bottom of the heart, we, Syntax Tax Clinic, as a whole team, thank you for your continuous support for this initiative. Whenever you got a doubt, kindly put it in the chat box. If you, because everybody has been muted, so you can put it in the chat box, and I will be able to clear all the doubts that are coming in the chat box at the end of the session. So whenever there is a query, straight away, when I am proceeding with the subject, any query raises, you put it in the chat box so that I will be able to answer your queries at the end of the session. So everybody will be having a fruitful participation so that your queries also will be clarified. And also, it will be a knowledge enhancing session for me also, because your queries will make me to think and then give the answers. And also, if the ready-made answers are not available, we will be able to get back to you after the session is over through the mail or WhatsApp. Thank you once again for the support. Now we are going into the topic for the day. As we put every time, so this is our basic mantra, we can say, Kattrathu kaimannadavu, kalladhathu ulagalavu. So what we have learned is only to the what the sand we can hold in the hand. But what we have to learn is it is just like the world. But now we can say what I have learned is a very, very small, minute thing compared to the what are the things that are available or the things to learn. So with this background, I am going into the subject. Tax on education service. Why I chose this topic? Because recent times I found that inspection is done by the GST authorities on schools, colleges, and everywhere. So they visit the schools and colleges, and then they seek the details, and then they want to levy the GST on some of the transactions undertaken by these colleges or schools. Last webinar, we saw on the charitable trust aspects. So that was only for trust, but the trust may be running a schools and colleges. So trust activities may be different, but running a schools and colleges will be different. So in this background, what are the tax implications for this area, schools and colleges? So the thrust of the today's webinar or the discussion, they can call it as a discussion because you can also ask your queries. So this is a discussion forum, I can tell. So the taxation on education service, is it new? No, it is not a new factor that has come into effect only due to GST. Even prior to GST, we had service tax on some of the educational services. It was called commercial coaching services. So whenever there is a commercial coaching is done, it was the tax brought to tax under the service tax regime. What was the commercial coaching? So that was also became a dispute during the service tax regime also. So similar disputes also coming in the way of GST. So it is better to get enlightened what are the items that may get taxed and then what are the areas in which the tax authorities are looking into. So these are all the aspects that we have to see in today's webinar. So with this background, first we must know what is an educational institution. So this is the primary aspect that has to be seen. The educational institution, there is a definition. So what they mean an education institution only will be eligible for exemption. You cannot say all the education institution or will be exempt. For example, I'm going to teach yoga. That will be an educational institution because that also I'm giving an education. So those kind of things cannot be considered as a education. So that education institution should come within the definition of that is given in the GST. See, this definition, every act will have a definition, but if this definition is finding a place in the notification issued by the government. Okay, so government through the notification gives the exemptions and also levies tax or prescribes the rate of tax for goods or services. So in this background, there is a notification. It is called 12/2017. This notification gives exemption to services. Though GST is a unified law, there is a clear distinction between goods and services. Okay, so this notification 12/2017 gives exemption for services. The services that are listed in this notification are not liable for GST. This is a mini act, I will say, because it has got its own definition portion. Usually the act will have definition, but this notification has got a definition portion. In the definition, there is a definition for educational institution. So there is a three-part. So the first part, I will say it is up to the school education, up to the +2, higher secondary education. That is covered under the first classification. Second is college. Second part is applicable to a college. The third part is vocational education course. Vocational education course. These three types of institutions only will qualify as an educational institution. These three education will be qualify as an educational institution. Not all the other education can be considered as an education. Just like I mentioned that notification number 12/2017 gives exemption, there is a notification number 11/2017 central tax rate. So this notification only specifies, as I mentioned, the rate of tax for services. This notification has got an entry, that is entry or serial number 30. This specifies the rate of tax for education services. So this notification prescribes the rate of tax for education services. 9% CGST, 9% SGST. So it is 18%. So this brings into the, or it halts the controversy whether education can be taxed or not. Because there is an entry for taxing the education services. So naturally, education is an activity that is liable for GST. But having prescribed a rate of tax, then they go for exemption. So first they say, yes, education is a taxable activity. If it becomes a taxable activity, it is liable at the rate of 18%. Now they go for exemption. So these exemptions, so this exemption is finding a place in notification number 12/2017. So what are the services? What are the services exempted? What are the services exempted? So the first service exempted is services provided to students, faculty. To students and then faculty. Then by an education institution, conduct of the exams. So these are all the main activity. The third class is vocational training, because that will not have a major impact. I am not taking into that. So the services provided by educational institution. So this is the crux of the matter. So it should be an education institution as per the definition. That is, first category is up to the school level. Even play school or preschool, they call it is exempt from tax. That they do not say anything approval or anything, that is exempt. Okay. If education institution provides services to its staff, students and then faculty, then that service is exempt from tax. And if at all, then there is a entrance exam. It conducts the entrance exam. The fees is collected for carrying out or conducting an entrance exam. That is also exempt from GST. So this is an exemption notification. So this is an exemption provided by the notification for the services provided by the education institution. Okay. Now there is another category. There is another category of services. These are all the services. These are all the services provided to an education institution. See, the education institution will require many services. Okay. So any service provider giving these services should not be taxed. Okay. So for this purpose, only these specified services, if provided by a service provider to an education institution, that will be exempt from GST. So what are the services? Transportation of students, faculty and then staff. Suppose a college, a school, why I am saying school, that will come there later. If a school, they hire the services of a bus operator. A bus operator service is hired, and then he undertakes to bring the children from the various places in and around the school to the school. And then he charges the school for the services rendered. So per kilometer or any services he renders. So for that bus operator will not charge for the services given to the school. So it is. Then catering including midday meal scheme. So this is also, they are not giving it to the school, then it will be exempt from tax. Then security, cleaning and then housekeeping provided to the educational institution. So performed in such educational institution, underscore the word performed in such educational institution. Because suppose there is a if there is a home of the managing trustee, the security services is provided there, then it will become taxable. But if the security is provided in the education institution only, it will be exempt. Then services relating to admission, conduct of examination, then online journals and periodicals. Only these 5 services are exempt from tax if it is given to the educational institution as per the definition. Suppose other activities are undertaken. For example, the school buildings are in a poor shape, or school buildings need a whitewashing again and then painting job. If these services are rendered, they do not come within the category of these 5. So in that situation, there will be GST charged by the service provider, and then the education institution has to pay GST. So these are all the services provided to this education institution. But this comes with the rider. This provision comes with the rider. What is this thing? So I listed in the previous slide, this is the 5 services. In the 5 services, for these 3 services, if it is provided to a college, then it will be liable for GST. it will be liable for GST. So that only I emphasized that the bus is given for the purpose of transporting the school children. So if the bus is taken on hire for transporting the school children, it will be getting an exempt from GST. But if bus is used by a college, then it will be liable for GST. See, this is the services provided by the bus operator. I am not telling about the fees charged by the college itself on the bus if they own the bus, and then they are taking the college children or the college students to their home and then bringing back, it will be exempt. But what they mean is, if the services provided by a third party, and then when they are raising the bill, if the transportation of the children involve the school, it is exempt. But if it involves the college students, it will be taxable. So the same thing applies for catering services, security, and then everything. So if these services are provided to schools only, it is exempt. If it is provided to a college, then it will be liable for GST. It will be liable for GST. So this is the basic understanding that we have to keep in mind to analyze the various situations, whether it will be liable for GST or not. So this is a basic concept with regard to GST on educational institution. All our further discussions will revolve around these basic concepts only, because all the circulars and everything comes from this basic concepts, and the various interpretations also given on the basis of this concepts only. So the second question that comes is, should an educational institution take a GST registration? Should they take a registration? That is a question mark. Okay. So there is a section in CGST Act, that is section 23. It provides for exemption from the registration. In what situation? This provides for an exemption when the person is exclusively engaged in provision of non or exempt supplies. That items or that services should not be liable for GST at all. If they are going to render that type of services, there need not be any registration. For example, for the goods, we can take the example of a vegetable merchant. Vegetables are not liable for GST. So if the vegetable merchant, for example, in Metupalayam, you will be having a vegetable merchant, wholesale vegetable merchant, they will be doing a turnover for nearly 10 to 15 crores or 20 crores. Because they are wholly dealing in vegetables, which is exempt from tax, they need not take registration. Similarly, doctors, as a doctor service, individually doctors, I'm not talking of clinical establishment, hospital, if their room rent is more than 5,000, they are GST, but I'm telling about the doctors. Okay, there is an individual doctor who is doing consultancy. So even if he is getting a 1 crore, he need not get registered because that service is wholly exempt from GST. So similarly, if the educational institution is only engaged in non-taxable services, it need not get registered under the provisions of GST. But department does not agree to this. There are some controversies they raise. What is the limit for registration? So the limit is for services 20 lakhs. For goods, dealing only in goods, the limit is 40 lakhs. But education is a service. Education is service because the rate of tax for education is finding a place in the rate of tax specified for services, that is 11/2017. So without any doubt, education is a service. The basic difference is tangible, intangible, we will say. Services are intangible, goods are tangible. These are all some of the differentiating factor. But clearly, the education is a service, not goods. So the limit applicable is 20 lakhs only, not 40 lakhs. So registration is required when the aggregate value exceeds 20 lakhs. So this aggregate value the aggregate value includes exempt supplies. So includes exempt supply. For example, in case of schools or colleges, any fees collected is exempt supply. But if at all there is some taxable supply, then that will come within the definition of aggregate supply. So on that basis, that is the controversy between the department and the education institutions. So whenever there is an inspection or audit is carried out, they say, sir, don't you dispose of some benches or desks, old computers, because those are all the items that are liable for GST. So considering that, you have to take into account the aggregate turnover of 20 lakhs limit. So you will be easily crossing. So even though you are not rendering exempt supply, whenever this is included, you have to take the registration. That is the view the department is taking. So whenever the inspection is coming or whenever GST inspection is carried out, be aware of this fact. Sometimes they may ask for this type of queries. Are you not going to say how you are going to dispose of the old furniture? Because nowadays finding a person to dispose of the old furniture is very, very difficult. We have to pay someone to take the old furniture. That is the situation. So if you say, sir, we do not sell, in fact, we pay the amount to remove from the school or college premises. So there is no supply at all. That type of view can be taken to avoid the registration. But department insists on registration. Okay. So this is with respect to registration part. Now, disputes in the colleges. Dispute in the colleges. So they say, see, in case of colleges, they say obtaining a qualification recognized by law. So this is the second clause of the definition of educational institution that applies. But if you see the first clause, which is applicable to the school, they do not say about thing or anything obtaining a qualification they do not say. Even they say preschool education. See, preschool or play school, baby school, mostly they are not registered. They take the children at the age of 2.5, then they train up to 3. And the new education policy, the age is increased. That is a different issue. So that first clause is for schools. The second clause is for mainly colleges. So what they say, the education as a part of curriculum for obtaining a qualification recognized. So here only the department comes into dispute. So the dispute is with the department, or department raises queries or raises a decent GST demand for colleges, because some of the courses or some of the subjects are not part of the curriculum. So that is the view taken by the department, to which as chartered accountant I do not agree. I do not agree. Why? I will tell you why I do not agree to this views taken. See, for example, department says, see, this is the subjects that you have to teach as approved by the university. University has given an approved subjects. Okay. On that basis, you have to teach only these subjects. If you take other subjects, for example, in future, because the bilateral trade is with China is increasing, the people from the here may go to China. So for ease of their language, the college itself can teach a Chinese language or Japanese or Spanish, anything. So to mold the students to the requirement of the industry, because if you are going to join an industry, you have to travel, and then for this purpose, they can teach. For these purposes, if the amount is collected by the college, the department says you have to pay GST on that. In my view, it is not at all required. Why? One first reason is, they say education as a part of the curriculum. They do not say subjects are as part of the curriculum, specified subjects as per the curriculum. They say education. So education, they do not say the syllabus or anything. They do not say education as part of the curriculum for obtaining a qualification recognized by law. So in this view, in my opinion, education is not a narrow thing confined to only the subjects that are prescribed. So it is the duty of the college to mold the student so that he is able to adapt to the environment, and then the requirements of the trade and industry, or if he is going to become an entrepreneur, all these qualifications are imbibed in him to make him ready for the industry or anything. He should be able to apply them practically, what are the things taught. So for this purpose, the education, it cannot be confined only to the subject. This is my opinion, but the department does not agree. So now the question arises, what is the meaning of education? We have got a classic Supreme Court decision in the case of sole trustee, Sikashna trustee. So this is a case related to income tax. So in that income tax, whether it will be considered as a charitable purpose. So education, it is a charitable purpose. That was the controversy. Though it was a decision in relation to income tax, we can easily adopt it to our point. So here they say, this is the exact wordings taken from the judgment. What education connotes in that clause, that is, they refer to the clause 215 of the Income Tax Act. But here also the word education is used, but education is not defined in the GST Act. So we can take this aid of this definition. What the education connotes in the clause is the process of training and developing the knowledge. Training and developing the knowledge, skill, mindset, and character of the student by formal training. So the curriculum is the formal training. In addition to that, if they are going to teach, in my opinion, this will not be liable for GST. So we can fight this case before the various authorities. So we can win. That is my opinion. So next question comes, admission fee. Admission fee. See, because the exemption notification provides the services provided to the student, staff, or faculty. But admission fee, because this amount is collected without knowing whether this person will become a student or not, whether he will get the admission or not, without knowing that a fee is collected from the student, with that will be liable for GST or not. So that is one of the important questions that has come up. In this context, there is a favorable circular. There is a favorable circular. One second. See, circulars issued by Central Board of Indirect Tax and Customs, we call it CBIC, is binding on the department. So department authorities cannot go against the circular, but the taxpayers can go agitate against the circular, but department does not have a right. Department is bound by the circulars issued by the Central Board of Indirect Tax and Customs, or we call it as CBIC. So they are bound by that. In that case, there is a circular number 177. It is given in 2022. So they clearly say from the prospective students. So admission or entrance fee collected or application fee from prospective students is also exempt from GST. So I would say this is one of the favorable circular. So this can be brought to the knowledge of the person whenever they are coming for an audit or inspection. They can raise the query, sir, have you paid the GST on admission? You can say, from the prospective students you have collected, this is exempt as per this circular. Similarly, migration certificate. When migration certificate is required, after a student ceases to be a student of the college or the school, that time migration certificate is issued, under a nominal fees is collected. Whether that fees will become liable for GST. Again, they have said that also is exempt. So admission fee is also exempt. Similarly, the migration certificate issued for that fees is collected. That is also not liable for GST. So supply of food or beverages. So there is a circular that is a very earlier. They say supply of, originally this was given, and then after that this was withdrawn. But the law as it is stands is for the supply of good food or beverages supplied by the education institution itself is exempt. See why this is exempt? Because that entry number 66, it says services provided by an education institution to its students, staff, or faculty. It is exempt. Okay. So supply of food is a service. It is considered as service. When the institution itself supplies the goods, then it is exempt. Institution itself supplies means if the institution buys the vegetables, grocery, and everything in its name, or it can be even for hostel. See, hostel is a part of the colleges only. It cannot be bifurcated because only the person who are admitted in the colleges or schools have got the right to stay in the hostel. So in that situation, the exemption that is available for the colleges will equally apply to the hostels also. So the hostel fees collected. So the hostel fees collected is exempted. So, but it should be run by the college or that by the educational institution itself. Now the question arises, what happens if it is run by third parties? Third parties. So, if the canteen is run by third parties, see, we have seen some of the colleges, so outsiders run the canteen. So the colleges or schools, they give the space for the canteen contractor. The canteen contractor runs and then he gives the rent to the school or colleges as it is. And then for the running of the canteen, that canteen contractor should pay GST, should pay GST. That is very, very important. See, this is very, very important. Exemption is given only for services, not for the goods, not for the goods. Though it is a unified law, there is a different notification number 1/2017, which prescribes the rate of tax for goods, and then 11/2017 prescribes the rate of tax for services. So there is a clear distinction between goods and services. Exemption is given only for the services. No exemption is given for goods. So this is a concept that has to be kept in mind. So as I mentioned, this notification 66 entry already we have seen. Okay. So this is a service exemption. Now the question arises. See, it is common to supply in case of, particularly in case of schools, uniforms, books, stationery are given. So whether, because these are goods, so whether they will it be liable for GST or not, that is a question that arises in everyone's mind. Because it is common to give, now in the schools, they will be giving shoes, uniform, ties, badges, everything will be, or belt, because there should be uniformity among the students. For this purpose only the uniform is given. When these items are given, will it attract GST or not? So that is a question that arises. So for this purpose, we must know the concept called composite supply and then mixed supply. So these are all both these concepts are unique to the GST law. These concepts are finding a place in GST law. So we cannot mixed supply. Two items are mixed, that is mixed supply. No, you have to go by the definitions given for composite supply and then mixed supply as per the GST law only. As per the GST law only. So what is a composite supply? So there is a definition consisting of two or more taxable supply, and then one of which is a principal supply. Two or more taxable supplies, then one of which is a principal supply. So principal supply means the supply of goods or services, of which one of is a predominant element. Okay. So in the supply, there is only one component which takes the main component. So that is a composite supply. So important concept is which are naturally bundled. So when these two items are combined and then naturally bundled, it is a composite supply. So we can take the example. See, for example, I shall tell the example with the goods. So Coca-Cola is taxed at the rate of 28%. Coca-Cola is taxed at the rate of 28%. Okay. Now, then biscuits, assume biscuits are taxed at 12% or 18%. I think 18%. Will they both be naturally bundled? No, they are not naturally bundled. They are not naturally bundled. So it will not be considered as a composite supply. It will not be considered as a composite supply. Okay. So there should be a link. For example, paste and brush supply. So there is a link because naturally bundled. Paste, you require a brush for brushing your teeth. So that is a composite supply. When there is not naturally bundled, two unlikely or two opposite elements are combined, then it is not a composite supply. It is called a mixed supply. Mixed supply. Okay. So why this rate is important? In case of a composite supply, what takes the principal character? What is the principal character or the predominant element in the composition will be the rate of tax for both the items. But in the mixed supply, what attracts the highest rate will be the tax. So this is the mixed supply and then composite supply. In this background, we have to see supply of books and everything. Supply of books will be considered as a composite supply because no one comes to the school just to buy the stationery items or anything because the stationery is within the premises. But here the catch is, if the amount is collected along with the bill, then it is a composite supply. Suppose the stationery is open throughout the school days, and then anytime the student wants, he can walk in and then he can get the material, pen or pencil or anything, then the individual items will be considered as an individual supply and then it will be attracted to tax. But if these items are bundled along with the tuition fees and then if the amount is charged, then it will be as a composite supply, and then the principal supply is the tuition fees. The tuition fees being exempt from tax, this amount will be also be exempt from tax. So for this purpose, we advise to have a separate registration if there is a shop for disposing for selling the stationery items throughout the year. So there is a separate registration can be taken for this purpose. So whether it is a composite supply or mixed supply came in the case of Resonance Adventures. So in this case, they are supplying the printed materials, test papers and a uniform, everything along with the fees. So whether it is a composite supply or not. So that was the issue that was agitated before this authority. This is called Appellate Authority for Advance Ruling. So the case went there, then they held. We hold that the supply of coaching service by appellant along with supply of coaching service, that is along with supply of goods, printed material, test papers is a composite supply, and then principal supply is coaching services. So taking analogy from this decision, we can say if the tuition fee is collected and along with the tuition fee, the amount is collected for the supply of uniform, stationery and other items, the principal supply is the tuition fee, which is exempt from GST. Similarly, other items supplied with them also will be exempt from GST. So this is the aspect that has to be seen. Bus fees collected from the students. So if at all bus fees is collected from the student, this is a service rendered to the students, staff and faculty. So it is exempt from GST. So this is very important. The bus fees is collected by the school. Suppose if the bus is taken on rent by the school or colleges, if the college is taking a bus on rent, the provider of the bus will be charging GST. So, but they cannot take the college cannot take the ITC because whatever they collect from the students is exempt from tax. So, bus fees collected from the students, staff or faculty is exempt from GST. Then bank interest. Bank interest received, it is exempt supply. So there is no GST on that. So that is an important aspect that has to be, that is usual. Then late fee or fines collected. Late fee or fines collected. So this is one of the important aspects. See, you are collecting the fees, but fine is not for anything. They have done some violation. They have come late. So you levy the fine. So these fines, whether will it be liable for GST? Here also, in my opinion, it will not be liable for GST as the amount is collected from the students. So this is the important aspect. Inter-school or college competition participation fees. See, nowadays it is very, very common. Some inter-college functions are held. In one college, a function will be organized. Then for that, other college students will be invited. For that participation, the college which is hosting that event will be charging an amount. From the other college students. So this is very, very important. So if you are going to collect the amount from your own college student, it is exempt. But if it is collected from the other college student for participating in a sports or any cultural event, that will be liable for GST since amount is not collected. From your own students. So this has to be kept in mind. Whenever inter-college competitions are organized and then participation fees is collected from other colleges. So this is very, very important area that has to be looked into. Then suppose playground or halls are rented to outside persons. Sometimes I give an example. Rotary Club is organizing a sports event for its members, Rotary Club members. So because Rotary Club, they organization, it will not have its own ground for organizing a tournament or anything. So they will be using the services or using the playground of a school or college. For that, the Rotary Club will give a rent. That rent will be liable for GST. So for calculating the registration limit of 20 lakhs, this amount also has to be considered. So for example, your amount is collected is say 19 lakhs and then 2 lakhs is coming as a ground rent. So that will be taken into consideration. It exceeds 21 lakhs, you have to take registration. That stand department may take. So this is an area that has to be very carefully considered. Extra coaching. So again, this fees is collected from the students. It will not be liable for GST. Other coaching, I already mentioned. So education is a wide term. So that cannot be given a narrow meaning. So soft skills training. That my view is getting strength from a circular given. In the circular, that is circular number 177, in para 4.3, they say, therefore, it can be seen that all services, mark the words, all services supplied by an education institution to its students are exempt from GST. So this circular says all services supplied by education institution to students are exempt from GST. From that, I take the view, suppose, as I mentioned earlier, that the education also cannot be restricted as to the curriculum. Here, the circular also reiterates all services supplied. So, for the extra services given and an amount collected will not be liable for GST. This is my opinion. Then they say, housekeeping services provided also exempt from GST. So what are garbage disposal? These services, when they are given to education institution, it is exempt from GST. So hostel students dry cleaning. This is one of the practical case, some of the practical query that came to me. practical query. They came to me, sir, in Ooty, we give the students cloth for dry cleaning. She is charging GST 18%. Sir, it is a huge burden. Will there be any exemption for that? So this cannot be given education, because this housekeeping has to be done in the premises, education institution premises itself. Suppose the cloth drying and then dry cleaning and everything is done by the person inside the premises, it is exempt. But since it is done outside the education institution, then it will not be exempt. As I mentioned earlier, if security is given to a residential premises of the managing trustee, it will not be exempt from GST. But if the same is provided to an education institution, it is exempt from GST. So here, similarly, the housekeeping services should be performed in the education institution. If it is performed outside the education institution, it cannot be considered as a housekeeping services, which is exempt from GST. So in this situation, it will be liable for GST. But if the washing is done inside the hostel, and then cleaning and then ironing, everything is done, it will be exempt from GST. School, canteen services, food supplied to school is the exempt, but not to the college. Rent collected from canteen contractor, I already mentioned. For the if you are giving a portion of the premises to the canteen, to run the canteen, for that you are collecting rent, then it will be liable for GST. GST on affiliation services. So this was a major controversy. It was running and everything. At last they came out with a circular 234. They say universities are giving affiliation services to the colleges, that will be liable for GST. So that is the thing. So any affiliation services provided to the colleges or schools, then it will be liable for GST. Then online coaching students. This is one of the important ruling. Tutor, I fully agree with that. See, they run the online coaching. So it is not, the people are not coming or anything. So it is not akin to school. So the services online coaching carried out with this education institution, tutor cum infotech, it is liable for GST. That is the decision of Authority for Advanced Ruling. So if devoid of a school environment, if someone is running an institution and then they say it is a education only, it will not be exempt from tax. So it should be part of the school environment, then only the other services or the ancillary services rendered to the students will be exempt from GST. Building construction by schools or colleges. This is one of the area of the dispute. Building construction for the schools, there is no exemption. You may buy your material and then construct the building, or you entrust that work to the contractor to build the classrooms for the students or any auditorium or anything. For that, there is no exemption. So it will be liable for GST. So any construction activities done for the school will be liable for GST. So that is the important aspect that has to be seen. So here another GST implication, sale of used cars. So this is a situation. This case, one of the case we practically faced in one of the our client's case itself. The department has raised the GST demand on the sale of used buses and the cars. So this is a very, very important. So as I mentioned earlier, only services are exempt from GST, that too when the service are received from the students or staff or faculty. Sale of a bus or a car is sale of goods. For that, there is no exemption is given. So it has to be charged for tax. So it has depend on So how to charge the tax for that purpose? It depends on whether you have claimed the depreciation for the bus and car or not. Usually, in case if the schools and colleges are run by a charitable trust, now depreciation is not allowed as an expenditure in the computation of the income for the charitable trust. So it is better not to charge any depreciation. But sometimes some of them they may charge a depreciation. But for the charitable trust, the depreciation is not a cannot be considered as an application of income. So in that situation, it is better to carry the car or buses at the value itself. So how the value for the charge or how the tax is charged for used car on the or used car or used bus. So this depends on whether the depreciation has been claimed or not. So here, if the depreciation has been claimed, sale value minus depreciated value. If the depreciation is not collected, if the depreciation is not charged, then margin equal to sale value minus. So what is your sale value? Suppose your purchase cost is say 10 lakhs. Purchase cost is 10 lakhs. You have not claimed any depreciation. Purchase cost is 10 lakhs. You have not claimed any depreciation. After 5 years, you are going to sell that vehicle for 4 lakhs only. 4 lakhs. So 10 lakhs minus 4 lakhs. So that then 4 lakhs minus 10 lakhs, it will be going to be a negative value. On that case, there is no GST. Suppose we are going to sell it more than that purchase rate only, you will be able to, you have to charge GST on the difference. 18% will come on the difference. As I mentioned, the purchase cost is 10 lakhs and then you are going to sell it for 12 lakhs. On the 2 lakhs only, that GST has to be charged. On the 2 lakhs, GST will be charged at the rate of 18%. So whether in the depreciation, if you claim depreciated, then you have to compare it with the depreciated value, not at the total value. So this is one of the aspects that has to be seen, because when you are going to sell the bus or car at more than the purchase cost or more than depreciated value, then naturally it will be liable for GST. Now, reverse charge for the rent. So rent, if you are using unregistered, if you are using the services of a rented premises and the landlord is not liable for GST and then he is not registered, you have to pay under the reverse charge only if you are registered. If the school or anything is registered, but if the school proves that it is not liable for registration, or colleges, if they are not liable for registration, because the entire services provided by them is exempt service, there is no registration requirement under 23. So in that situation, if you are using the premises and then you are paying the rent, then there will not be any reverse charge. There will not be any reverse charge for the rent. So these are all some of the aspects that has to be considered, that has to be seen as a school, as a college. Because why? Because recently we saw one of the what is the thing that prompted us to take this subject is nearly 60 lakh demand was raised on one of the education institution. For that only we thought we can educate the entire persons who are engaged in running the college or managing the colleges, or the accountants who are chartered accountants who are looking into the accounts of the schools or colleges. So if we bring it to the knowledge about these issues, they can be advising the clients properly, or the school or the persons who are running the schools, or the owners of the schools or colleges, take the appropriate action with regard to these aspects. These are all the things I thought I shall bring it and then share it with you all. Thanking you one and all for your wonderful participation. If at all there are queries, we can take it in the chat box. Sir, some of the first query is whether preschool will include play school. Yes, preschool will include play school also. I mentioned this during the speech also. Preschool will include play schools also, sir. Is uniform fee or bus fee? See, bus fee is a service, so it will not be liable for GST. As I mentioned, uniform, if it is supplied along with the tuition fee, it will be getting the exempt. Otherwise, it will not be exempt from GST. Then what about books and uniform fees? See, I already mentioned, see, if books and supplied along with the tuition fee, it will be a composite supply and then it will be exempt. Otherwise, it will be liable for GST. Please forward the PPT to my email address. It will be done, sir. Mr. Suryanarayan. Supply of food to education institution exempt. Why? Canteen services provided to school. No, canteen services provided to school is exempt, sir. But if it is to college, it will be taxable, sir. A local authority running college, they have GST as they render some taxable service consulting soil testing and reporting. In this case, do we need to show the income from fees collection from student also? Yes, sir. Yes, you have to show the fees collected from the students also as exempt supply, sir. You have to show. You should not show only the taxable item. You have to show these items also, sir, exempt supply also. And also tell about 990 filing requirement. I guess there is an exemption for local. So that I shall check and then tell. I shall tell. In recent, sir, Pani Buri, that is not related to the topic. Private vans charging to students attract GST. Yes, sir. Private vans, if they are running on its own and then they are playing on their own and then not supplying to the school. See, private vans, if they are supplying to the school and then collecting from the school, it is exempt. But if they are running on it on their own and then collecting from the student, and then if their gross receipts exceeds, and then if their gross receipts exceeds threshold limit of 20 lakhs, they have to get registered and then pay the GST, sir. Annual day amount collected from the students, not taxable because it is collected from the students, sir. Affiliate and fee paid to GST applicable or sir, that is a forward charge. The university will charge you. You need not get it under reverse charge, sir. Is GST applicable to preschool services provided by trust? No. Preschool education is exempt, so nothing is there. The trust also supplies bag stationery to students. Is GST already replied, sir. If it is charged along with the tuition fee, then it is exempt. If it is charged separately, then it will attract GST. Sir, it is a composite supply means it will not attract. If it is a separate bill, it will attract to the rate of the tax. You have to see the schedule, notification number 1/2017, and then you have to determine the rate of tax for goods, because there is a different rates for pencils, pens, and everything. We have to look into the notification for notebooks, ruled drawing notes. There are some exemptions also. So this is a long list. So you have to look into the rate of tax for each and every item, ink, refills. So that only you can do that, sir. Sir, the candidates who apply for banking jobs like IBP exam, they charge IGST. Sir, transfer certificate attract GST? No, because I already mentioned migration certificate. Does not require any GST. Hamid Ibrahim, can I get this file? Surely you will get it, sir. You can contact our help desk. They will be able to guide you, sir. Auditorium fees collected from other schools for their usage. It is liable for GST, sir. I mentioned the playground. The same thing applies for the auditorium also. Auditorium is let out to other schools, and then if amount is collected, then it is liable for GST. ICA coaching class, not exempt. ICA. Selling textbooks are exempt from tax, so it will not. Even international curriculum for school approved by foreign university, it is taxable. It is taxable, sir. It is taxable. A local authority is running a college. They have just as their rendered. Already it has been answered. Running advertisement for admission will be like, yes, running an admission for admission will be attracting the GST, because that does not come under the 5 items that is specified services rendered to an educational institution that has exempt, and that advertisement does not come, sir. If the catering students is outsourced by school, no tax, sir. Catering is no tax. If it is college, then it will become taxable. If the school only provides mentioned exemption, it is not no, it is not mandatory to get registered, sir. It is not required, sir. Krishna Swami Ramudari, thanks for your compliments, sir. I acknowledge your positive remarks. Thank you. If there is no taxable service and the turnover is above 20 lakhs, is it required for taking registration? No, not at all required, sir. Not required, sir. Not required. Tutorial coaching center run for 12. Sir, that is not that is liable for GST, sir. 12th and the tutorial college is liable for GST, sir. Yeah, many of you have asked for the PPT. See, kindly contact our help desk on this, and then you can get the copy of that. Thank you for all of you for your wonderful support and then participation. Any queries, kindly mail us. We will be able to get back to you. Thanking you one and all for your wonderful participation and then queries raised. Thank you.